Welcome to the Smart Thinking Podcast. This is my dad, Ted.
Welcome to the Smart Thinking Podcast. I'm your host, Ted Knightsky. Today, a conversation with author, president, and friend, Aaron Sadoff. Aaron wrote a book called MindCraft, and we are going to have a conversation to help you understand both his mindset in developing the text, some of the ideas found within the text, and most importantly, how you can take away from this conversation some immediately applicable things that you can do in your own leadership and life. As you listen to the episode here, I want you to keep in mind a few things. Number one, a leader is anyone with influence over another person. Pick up new ways to demonstrate your influence over other people through this conversation. Two, remember we also are all followers, people who have missions and work with other people to collaborate for the success of those around us. So listen for those little new tips and clues and ideas in this conversation. And then finally, remember, all of us are buffaloes who are facing imminent storms, and we always have a choice. Are we going to face it, go to it, and run through it? Or are we going to turn our backs to it and run away from it? Well, running away from it is certainly not an opportunity or a chance that Mr. Sadoff here is going to take. So enjoy this conversation between me and my old friend, Aaron. Three, two, one. Welcome to the Smart Thinking Podcast. It's me, Ted Knightsky, the host, with my special guest here today, friend, president, and author, Aaron Sadoff, coming to us from Fond du Lac. Aaron, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks a lot, Ted. And I just learned this skill. Listen to this. Pew, 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 pew. That's a sound effect. I want to be a DJ. So live from Fond du Lac, it's Aaron Sadoff, who's got a face for radio.
Yeah. Pew, pew. I didn't know if that was a Star Wars thing or your intro. It was pretty solid. So Aaron and I have known each other for a long time. This is the second time he's been on the podcast. He was up in the episodes on the hundreds that we talked about mindset and a bunch of different things. But since then, Aaron wrote a book, which is forwarded by Sean Aker. And we're going to talk about the book a little bit, but I want to talk a little bit about Aaron because there are a few people in my life who match my energy, and Aaron's one of them. And his leadership style is really pure enthusiasm and optimism. And that led him to his newest current role. And Aaron, can you tell us, we're going to start backwards. Normally we start with where did you grow up and where did you go to school? We're going to start backwards here. What are you doing now?
Oh, thanks, Ted. I'm in my 14th month of being the 18th president of Marian University. We are a Catholic liberal arts university, 4-year university offering degrees from undergraduate, actually associate degrees now also, all the way up to PhDs. And, it's something where I'm sitting in this president's role, and I'm a 2-time alumni of Marian University. I got my master's degree here, and then also I was in the PhD program for when I got my superintendent's license. And what's so interesting about this job is, like you had mentioned, how did I get here? I learned a while back that there's no plan. Always have goals, always have things that you want to do, but realize my dad had said one time, Aaron, if an opportunity presents itself and you don't act on it, it goes away. And being at Marian University now in this apparent crisis of higher ed, where we have less students coming in and being specifically a private institution where we can't rely on any of the government except for student aid through grants, it's really unique. But what I see very, very apparent to me in my role here is being the president of the university isn't just about the academics part of it. It's about community impact. It's about alumni relationships. It's about helping create people who are no longer kids. We have young adults here. And what I'm really excited about in this position at 53 years old, I'll be going 54 in December, is this is like a culmination in so many different pieces of me, like working at J.C. Penney's in the Badger Corner back in high school, or when I was in the military and I was a teacher, principal, superintendent. It's kind of like all those different things come together, and now I get to utilize them to help lead this amazing place.
What's cool is because you come from a place of positivity. The book is called MindCraft, The Art of Positive Thinking Right Now. And I love that momentary piece because your career has taken you, like you said, from the classroom, principalship, superintendency, and now president of a university. Where do you see yourself applying positive thinking right now in your career?
Well, go back to when we start looking at higher ed. You've probably heard of schools closing from your alma mater, Cardinal Stritch. Northland's just closed. We had, I think, there's Siena Heights Catholic institution over in Adrian, Michigan. There's less people that are available because of our birth rates are down, but also there's a question that we see out in our world a little different about, is a higher ed degree really worthwhile? Can't we just get into the trades? Why is it all important? So coming back to your question about my positivity, somebody asked me, what are your biggest stressors about Marian University? I mean, are you stressed about, the environment, the enrollment cliff? And I said, none of those really bother me. What bothers me, or what's my biggest concern, is can we maximize our potential? Because there's going to need to be universities, there's going to need to be things going on. And for me, I've learned that I can't control things that are out of my control. You've got that prayer, God grant me, or the ability to know what I can change and can't change, and the wisdom to know the difference. And my positivity really right now comes through of focusing on what we can do. And right now, that whole mindset is, it's today. It's, I hope we can get to tomorrow, and I'm going to, we have a plan to get there. But the reality of it is what can we do today to make sure that you feel that I see you, that you're connected to me, that we make a difference in the world. And I think that question of what are you most worried about really switched to me not being worried as much as how can we maximize what we can do and do it internally. And then I start also thinking about, you and I were talking, well, I'd consider you one of my best friends. You were talking just earlier when we were talking about what makes you feel like a little kid. You're talking about bike riding and stuff like that. And what really, what really keeps me going is this whole thing about imposter syndrome. I think about it quite a bit. Like, why me? Like, why am I on this podcast? Like, this is the second time I've been on a podcast. I'm a president of a university. I'm a dad of 3 children. And I think, how did this happen? Why am I worthy of this? And so what that really does for me, that humility, or that just thought process, that authentic, like, what's going on, it helps me to continually be grounded, to help maybe just really embrace that moment and do the best I can. So I think it comes really down to this whole, like, I really believe this. I really believe that I'm not that special. I really believe that we can always contribute and we always have choice. So that's kind of how I evolved to really apply it.
I think one of the things too that you and I have talked about over the course of our lives and our leadership is there's sometimes, and I wanted you to talk about this a little bit, there are sometimes when people don't take us serious. We walk into some environments, and especially you. I mean, you walk in and you're like, hey, woo, here we go, right? And there's some people who are like, oh, this is all for show. Then the second time they're around you, you're, hey, here we go. And then the third time they're like, okay, this is like legit. This guy is literally, he's wired this way. What do you do in that gap when you are constantly being positive and it slowly takes other people time to realize, no, that's the actual authentic Aaron?
So I would say there's 2 things. One is built around trust, and the other one is built around strategically communicating with people. And I'll talk about the trust one first. So when I think of trust, I think about myself as a president of the university. I don't have a terminal degree. I'm a dissertation and a couple research classes away from my terminal degree. I have utmost respect for people that have earned their PhD, EDDs. It's a lot of work. And in essence, this book has I felt like this could be considered my personal PhD or my personal dissertation right now. But coming into this role, I define trust in 2 parts. Number 1, that people believe you know the right thing to do. And then number 2, people believe you're going to do it. So when I started this job, I was very thoughtful about making sure that when I had conversations, like you said, this is our moment. Let's be a positive about it. Excuse me, not Pollyannish, but really, just authentically embracing life. And so as I've gone on, I've made sure that people started to realize, oh, he knows about finance. Oh, he knows about how to advocate for legislation. Oh, he knows about teaching and curriculum and instruction. Oh, he knows about fundraising in the community. Once people start to see that, and trust takes two things. I think Daniel Coyne might have talked about this, or somebody else in a book. And I believe it. It takes time and courage. And sometimes we don't have enough time, so we have to have the courage to trust somebody. But so that's really, when you look at my positivity, or when you look at how I act as a human being, I try to be consistent, and it's easy because now it's a habit, if you will. But I'm also very, very thoughtful so that people will realize that my positivity isn't based on Pollyannishness or covering something up. It's based on that this is really the environment. And I learned now, because up until 1998, positive psychology didn't exist.
Right.
And that was something that Dr. Seligman, Martin Seligman, said, we're going to start studying why people succeed. And so this was never, being in a positive emotional state or working on environment and cultures, all those things that you and I thrive on and really have built our lives on in our professions, is now it is best practice. And now it is research based. So for me, the number one thing is, the first thing is that I really I'm focused on being authentic and being consistent and letting people know that although I'm fun, and although that I have a good time, I can do stuff. And I'm not,
right.
like, for instance, I went to the Fond du Lac Erie Foundation. This was my job before this one, but after being a superintendent. And I started talking to, I had 5 employees. So I went from 210 to 5 employees. And now I get to work with about 400. So I'm kind of in my realm now. But those 5 are 5 with me. But those women that I worked with at Fond du Lac Erie Foundation, one of them, probably about 2 weeks into it, knew me as a person, knew a couple of people that knew me. And she said, as when I was doing her initial review and asking her, like, what can I do to help you? She goes, Aaron, you're really kind of smart. You kind of know what you're doing. I'm like, well, thank you. I really appreciate it. But that's something that I still know. Some people who just know of Aaron Sadoff don't know that, I can roll up my sleeves and I kind of really enjoy the cerebral thinking stuff. Yeah. So that's the first one. The second one is about, and I don't know, do you have time? I could tell like one of my first stories about 2 arrows.
Yeah, do it.
Okay. So picture you're in a beautiful place. If it's in the mountains, it's in a meadow, it's by a lake, wherever it is, and you're just enjoying the day. And this is a story, a parable of by Buddha called 2 arrows. And as you're walking along, you can hear the birds chirp, chirp, chirp. You can hear the squirrel scamper. You can smell in the air some kid trying to cover up their smoke and weed. It's just a wonderful day. It's out there. You're out in there, and then boom, you get an arrow right in your thigh. And then the first thing you do is you look on the ground, you pick up another one and stick it in your other thigh. What Buddha would say, he said that first arrow, that's pain. It's inevitable. Bad things happen to everybody. Matter of fact, you're going to die. I'm going to die. We're all going to die. The number one cause of death, according to the Onion, is mortality. It gets everybody.
Uh-huh.
That second arrow, that is suffering. You didn't have to do that. You didn't have to complain. You didn't have to whine. You didn't have to isolate. You didn't have to deprecate. You didn't have to do those other things. You didn't have to suffer. You didn't have to do it. You don't want to self-defecate. That's not going to help things either.
No. But if you do, there's things we can help you with.
That's right. So the second part is that I have to make sure that people know positive psychology, myself, how I act is not based on not recognizing. It's like, I don't know if you've ever heard of the buffalo and what buffaloes do.
Yeah, a few times.
Have you heard that? It's like a buffalo. They know the storm's going to suck. They know that it's going to be terrible. They know that it's going to be cold. They don't deny that. They work on that. They head into it, but they also realize they don't have to make things worse. So my second thing that I do is not only with helping develop trust and having people get inside to know that I know what I can do it and that I will do it, is that to acknowledge that things aren't good all the time. Just, I get it. We're in a bad spot. Understood, good. It is what it is. It's kind of like I go to funerals now, and I don't know if, I go to a lot more of those than I do weddings and births and stuff.
Yeah, it's our season of life.
That's right. And I'd always used to ask, how are you doing? And you know what? 2 things are going to happen. Either I'm going to hear, I'm terrible, somebody just died. Why the hell did you ask me that question? I'm here at a funeral. Or I'm going to hear a lie. One of the 2. So I started to say, instead of going in there and being Pollyannish about like, how are you doing? And tell me something nice so we can get on from this. all I say, it's nice to see you. It's nice to see you. And just acknowledge that, you know what, this sucks, and you move forward. So what I've done for me to have people see me more of just a Pollyannish person who bounces around is, number one, really focus on developing trust and letting people know that I'm a hard worker and that you can count on me to be continually doing what I believe is right. And then the second part is just acknowledging that it's okay. Things aren't good sometimes, but that doesn't mean we can't do things now.
Yeah. I love the I see you part, and you talked about that in your book in a different context. But I've just had this feeling for years. There's two things we are never prepared for. Number one is when the inevitable happens to someone we love. Even when it's a slow churn and there's a long illness, like, you're just not prepared for it. And the other thing is, and I have a good friend who is in the funeral business, and I've said to him many times, I think in the line that people are standing in, we need to take that opportunity to educate people on empathy. Because you're right, people say the worst things, and never on purpose at funerals. And when we lost our brother, my brother Tom and I were standing there, and I could not believe the things people said to us. Like, either trying to make lightheartedness of it, like, your brother really looks good in there, huh? Like, what is wrong with you? Or they would say things, you know, like, well, I know what you're going through. We lost a dog a couple weeks ago. That's my brother. And it's that lack of empathy. So I learned where my positivity shines in those traumatic moments or those, you know, those sad moments is I always ask, you know, when can I call you to find out what you need? Because right great. Now, you know, I don't remember anything from those funeral lines other than how I felt when it was over. But, you know, in that moment, like, when can I call you to figure out what you need? Because what's really strange about, and let's spin on this for a second. When you do suffer loss, everybody's there for you for like the first 7 or 8 days. And then all of a sudden, like, everybody just gets back to their life. And what ends up happening is it's like the 8th, 9th, 10th day that it starts to settle in what happened. Mm-hmm. And then there you are by yourself. So that's where I think, you know, Buffalo leaders, men like you, women like us, that's where we get to step into that space, which, Aaron, brings me to the ABCs of MindCraft. Let's get to your book now, because, like, I think people very quickly figure out the two of us. I mean, if a spider comes down from your ceiling, we're going to talk about that spider for 25 minutes. So we're easily distracted.
You see the web?
Yeah.
Oh, squirrel.
Yeah. So in your text, you've got 8 chapters, and we're not going to get into all of them. Friends, you got to get the book. You start out with part 1 right now, part 2, MindCrafts. And what I love about it is Aaron does service, and he's grown to have a great friend in the Wisconsin prison system. He believes that we are our own editors, but then he has this concept of MindCraft, M-I-N-D, craft, not the chicken throwing popcorn in the theater one. But you have the ABCs of MindCraft. Can you walk us through, what are those?
Okay, spoiler alert. I'm going to tell you the beginning of the ABCs of MindCraft. So I was a psychology teacher at Fond du Lac High School, taught AP psychology, also taught at Manitowoc Lincoln High School from both of those. I was a teacher from 97 to 2006. Also spent time at Woodworth Middle School. But so I was teaching psychology, and we would get to therapy. I came in, and I've got these 16, 17, 18-year-olds sitting around, and I look at them and said, hey, guys, how many of you masturbated today? And I said, guys, I masturbated like 3 times this morning. How many of you have done it today? And some of them look, and then all of a sudden there's this pause, and this student raises her hand very sheepishly and says, Mr. Sadoff, you can't ask us that. I said, well, you've never said I must be the best at something, or people must like me all the time? So they're like, oh, all of a sudden I could see that they didn't feel like they had to go and tell the principal about me. And where that came from is a guy named Albert Ellis, who he was probably one of the first and foremost people on cognitive psychology. When there wasn't research after Freud, you know, he came through and he started to really talk about how you think. And he talked about irrational thinking, from masturbation, awfulization, catastrophizing, all these things. And if you want to learn about a guy who lived to 90, and his story is unbelievable. You, Ted, would love, if you got a book, go to Wikipedia, just get your get a taste of it, but you'd love to learn about him. Well, anyways, he came up with the ABCs of his thought process, and it's rational motive therapy. And what the ABCs are, you have an activating event, something happens, you have a belief, and then there's a consequence, right? You can't control that activating event. Like, for instance, you mentioned my friend Harlan. Okay, he could control some things, but now that he's in prison, and what his sentence is, he has very little control over what that is. But his belief, is he there to be angry and mad? Did this happen? Now he can help somebody do something or bring a shining light within a dark place. And then the consequence happens. So anytime something happens, be it a setback, be it a really great thing that went on, be it, you get there's a car accident, or for instance, another thing, like I didn't get jobs. A lot of things that the reason I'm at Marion University is I didn't get the job as superintendent in Fond du Lac, nor did I get in at Oshkosh. Those are jobs I really wanted that I went and I applied for, and I was a finalist. But the thing is that was that activating event. If I thought that was going to be my definition, my belief would be I can't do anything. Why would I look at something? My consequence would have been I'd be right where I was, right in that area, right there. But if that belief sometimes, everybody, this doesn't happen right now. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it takes a minute. But if you start to see after you get it out with yourself and go through your 5 phases of grief, which hopefully you rip yourself through them quicker than most, then you start to say, you know what? So that didn't happen, but now I can do this or that. So that belief part is huge. And when that MindCraft, that's really what the whole setup is that activating events happen and you get to choose your mind set. Now, your original one might be something that isn't effective for you. That's flight or flight, but it could help keep you alive. But then after that, what are you going to do, right? So that's where the MindCrafts come in of get to, or I see you, or Bashert, or judge good, or better together. That's that belief part, because that's the key to everything. Something happens. How do you believe, or what belief do you put on that activating event? And then that consequences will come from there. So that's all we can't control the consequences. We can't control the actions, but we can control our beliefs, which influence our consequences. And that's really the setup to the whole book.
Well, and 3 things that all of us have control over, right? Number 1 is our happiness. Number 2 is our mindset. And number 3 is our choices. And, that gets pounded into me every single day. And I don't know about you, and talk to me about this, Aaron, but when you're in those positions, those pinch points, what's your self-talk to help you maintain that?
Humor is a big one. So I mean, and I think sometimes we were going through Act 10 together. It's COVID. I mean, we talk about a job I didn't get. You were somebody who had a lot of knowledge and was part of that. A lot of it is that inner talk about humor. I mean, for me, those difficult times, I do that, and I think how can make for me. We're dealing with I'm dealing with first world problems. I'm not starving. I'm not sitting in a concentration camp. I'm not worried about what bombs are falling on me or my family. And really, it's about that idea of first having that internal sense of humor about yourself, where you're just okay with that. And I think that to me is a big part. But then another thing is I don't know, everybody ever hear of a cell phone, right? On that cell phone, there's an app that has a camera, and there's also pictures. If you hit on it, you're going to see pictures. And what people tend to do, sans you are an investigator, an insurance agent, is you tend to take pictures of things that you like, right? So what I've done, be it when I go into a meeting when there's going to be an expulsion, or I'm going into a meeting where we're going to have to look at doing a professional improvement plan, or going into a situation where things aren't going so well in one of my children's lives, and how can I support them? Or, or if there's a disagreement amongst a family member or something, I pick up those pictures and I start looking, because the brain doesn't know the difference between real and fake. But if I look at those pictures and then all of a sudden I start to get in that place where I become grateful, and I become, appreciative, grateful, I get myself back in that moment, all of a sudden, you go to happiness. That's how I choose that, because my brain starts to work different. And when we're in a positive emotional state, or that idea that you define that as happiness, I define that as any positive emotional state, our brain works better, and then we get to deal with things better. So for me, it's all about being very understanding that I use humor and I'm not that important. And then the second part is really, for example, it's not just pictures that I see, but I can visualize things, or I could see, like my Ted Lasso sock set my friend got me that retail for $75 and think like, why the heck would that happen? But they're beautiful. It's those things then that when you do that, your brain switches the way that the chemistry is working. And it's almost like your eyes open so you can see possibilities instead of always seeing things that can happen in negativity.
How do you coach others to stay within those, the ABCs, that mindset? I mean, we're outliers. That's why people want, you to write a book. That's why they want you to stand in front of a stage. They want to learn how to do that. Like for instance, my grandmother Nightsky, who's, on my Mount Rushmore, one of my favorite people in the whole world. If we were getting a little too upset, feeling slighted, if we were becoming transactional and keeping score, she would say to us, "You're taking yourself a little too seriously. Teddy Nightsky is not as important as he thinks." And then as I grew up, I would hear other people or read things like, "Well, people aren't thinking about you as much as you're thinking about them. And people are certainly not thinking about you as much as you think they're thinking about you." Mm-hmm. And, when you run into those things, Aaron, how are you continually coaching that to help them be positive? Because there's one thing for us to live by example. And people learn and grow from our example. But when you run into the Aaron, it's not all unicorns, Skittles, and sunshine.
Mm-hmm. Although that's fun. And my spirit animal is a rhinoceros, which is just an overweight unicorn. So thanks for letting me get that in.
Husky unicorn.
I'm not heavy. Yeah, husky. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So how do you do that? When you face that?
So I went and saw a speaker. He was one of the Freedom Writers. Remember that book or that woman who taught? Yeah. So he spoke, and I don't know if you're at this. I think it was maybe at AASA or is that one of our nationals. Did a great job speaking. I think it was him. It could have been somebody else. I'm not sure, but I remember, that whole saying: you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Right? His mindset was you can lead a horse to water. You can't make him drink, but you could put a salt lick out, right? You can make him thirsty. So probably the way that I see it is, one more analogy that will tie into this is like a seed. You don't make a seed grow. The reality of it is as a seed grows. You could till the water, you could till the ground, you could add water, you can make the environment better for that seed to grow. But it's still up to the seed to grow. Like you might see weeds that come through concrete, right? Mm-hmm. So what I've come to the point is I can't change people. And that frustrated me for probably up until less than a decade ago, is I can't change people how they think. But what I can do is I can be me, and then I can overtly show them situations where if they would change the way they think, things could happen. Like, for instance, the only thing special about me is that I've got friends and family, and I have my dad, because those people make me important. What's also really cool is my influence has gone bigger, not because I'm more important, but because I know more people. And more people think that I'm worthwhile to hang out with, or they'll hire me to help support them in different areas. And when I get to do that, then what I get to be is this whole thing of a role model. I think Charles Barkley always says, I don't want to be a role model and blah, blah, blah. I think it was. And then I think he ended up saying, you don't have a choice if you want to be a role model. You just get to choose if you're a good or a bad one. It's the person that's looking at you that makes that choice. So really I just continue to be me, continue to put myself out there, and then continue to it's just consistent conversations, consistent working with people, consistently being you, that then people will be like, okay, I see it. Because he did this, look at what happened. Because this happened, then that happened. So I think that's really kind of where my go-to is just being more purposeful too. I think maybe that's another thing that I've grown. Like I've always thought I've been optimistic. You probably have always had the opportunity. I mean, although I remember when I met you, you were the at-risk principal. This is in Stevens Point, like 2006 or 7, when you were speaking. I just became a principal at Bethlehem Middle School in North Fond du Lac. But really now we used to do things all the time, but we didn't know why they were working. And that's really kind of, I think, is that to be very thoughtful, to point out to other people that, hey, you made the conscious decision to do this, and look at how crummy that worked. Or with my daughters and son, hey, remember when this didn't work out, but you decided to do this, this, and this? Or remember when you had the breakup there and that whole thing lasted like about 6 months because you're angry? Now it only lasts a month. What are you doing different? Yeah. So it's pointing those out in people, but it really comes back to being that role model and then creating that whole salt lick for people to say like, oh, I can be comfortable being happy and laughing, and that can be successful. That's a big thing in my current role. Higher ed is a different animal. Great people. And I believe the president before me did a great job. The people here, they did the best that they had. I just came from a different perspective. And when I start to show people that my door's open as a president, I've got Red Bull, both sugar-free and regular, along with water and soda and snacks. You can come in here, have a snack, and we'll have a conversation. And that's just a different mindset, which then people say like, well, if the president's doing that and they hired him to do that, maybe I can do those things too.
Well, again, that's leadership is, as I define it over and over and over again on the podcast, anyone with influence over another person. And that's where we can't underestimate, our influence and how we operate every single day by being a role model, whether we're choosing to be or not. So with that in your text, you've got this great chapter, I See You. Talk to us a little bit about that principle, because I was introduced to that idea. Oh, I can't remember. I was still teaching. So it was in the mid 90s. Bill Clinton was president, and he had come back and he was being interviewed about something, and he had just left Africa on a trip through Africa. And I don't remember the name, and you'll be able to fill all this in, but the greeting was, I see you. It was not hello. Sabona. And Bill Clinton and Bill Clinton had talked about like, what's wrong with us that we don't see each other? So talk to us about that, Aaron. That you sparked that memory for me. I'm like, oh, this is awesome.
So let me throw it right back at you. When is the last time that somebody, a former player for you and your coach, a teacher, a student, called you or contacted you and you said to yourself, I don't remember them being that I did something for them? Have you gone through that a couple times?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So what I've learned is that, I see you is not about, like, I had an experience with the first president, George H.W. Bush, great guy. I caddied for him. I won't give it up. It's in the book. But the whole idea is that if I would talk to him, well, I can't anymore. He's passed, right? But if I caddied for him in 1998 and we spent 5-6 hours together, and he was just really kind of nice. And like, I felt like he understood me. He even sent me a signed picture of him and I together and a $50 check. I did cash it, so it didn't wreck his checkbook. I didn't want to be that guy. But then he saw me, like, for that time, I was important. He might not have remembered me, but I remembered him for that moment. You don't know the power that it is that you have to make somebody feel valued, to feel seen, that they exist, that they're real. And I think about, in my whole life, if you almost put it on yourself internally, how many times have you been in a situation where you didn't think your teacher, maybe somebody worked, where people even knew you existed? They didn't know who you totally were. And we hide behind social media now too sometimes, where that upward mobile comparison that's not who we are. But that's that whole idea of being present and curious. And I know you're a huge Ted Lasso fan, and if you like Ted Lasso, you're going to love Stick. And if you like that, Bad Monkey's not behind it either. But that whole idea of being curious and asking questions about people. I've got this this thought process now, and it's not happening right now because we're learning about each other. But when I go into a conversation and I leave, I always ask myself, did I learn more about them or did they learn more about me? And if I can leave saying I learned more about them, I was present. I was there. Even a small thing, when you're talking to somebody, I don't know if people have ever felt that they're pulling away or they're starting to walk away. What I also do when I talk to somebody, be it for a minute, 5 minutes, or an hour, I'll square my feet so my shoulders are square. Just those things that physically make you present in the area. And then what you do is you make a difference in people's lives because you saw them. And that's a huge thing. And, James Cameron, if you like the blue people of Avatar, he did research and he used the word and those big blue people or big blue aliens, they use I see. They don't say I love you, they say I see you. Yeah. And that's what the Zulu tribe that you were talking about in South Africa, you exist. Not only do you exist, I'm going to let my ancestors know that you exist. I represent my ancestors and my family, and you're real. Now let's flip it around. When you don't feel you exist, that's where we have depression. That's where we have anxiety. That's where we have people feeling like I'm alone, right? And we can do that at any time by just being present, shutting your mouth for maybe 3-4 minutes, listening to somebody. Oh, and then ask them a question about them. Have you ever left? And I know my wife and I will leave a party or we'll leave somewhere and she'll go, I know everything about so-and-so and their kids and all that kind of stuff. I don't think they know we have children. I don't even think they know our names.
Yeah.
And you think about that, you can be that other person, but it takes humility and it takes that opportunity for you to do that. So that whole idea of I see you is just to be curious and show people value. And if you can do that, you're going to see somebody 20 years later, like I wrote the book MindCraft, and I had this student from Kansas. She actually spent $50 to buy my book to help support me going forward. She does that messenger thing on Facebook. I'm starting to learn all that kind of stuff too. So she messages me, about a 4-inch message and maybe 5-inch. And she was talking about how she's divorced. She has 2 kids in Kansas. People said that they'd help her. People said they'd do stuff. She's pushed them away. She said after she read my book, she's like, I think when next time somebody offers to help me, I might take them up on it. The next time somebody says if I'd like to go somewhere and they're a decent person, I might do it because I need to be seen and I need to be there with them. They need to be with me. I don't remember her until she wrote me, and now I can jog my memory and bring that back. And I'm telling you, every single person out there that's listening to the podcast or reads a book, you've done that to somebody. You just don't know. You just don't know. So don't stop.
I want to touch on this idea. For me, what's really, really important is when you and I or anyone is in a pit of pessimism, lacking the courage to challenge our storm, whatever it is, there's always this weird stubbornness for accepting help from others. And to your point, like you can be as positive as you want to, and I'm going to do this on my own. But boy, when you can create a herd of people to support and run alongside of you, it's very different. And the key reminder, and you said it over and over just now, when other people recognize that you or I have a need, there is no good reason to push them away. It is to do the exact opposite, because I'm only going to step into the space that you provide for me. But if you don't accept or you push me out of it, I'm not going to step into that space again. And that's going to fuel loneliness and anxiety and everything else, where when people say like my question, I'm going to call you in a week and I'm going to ask you where you need me. If you say, no, I don't need anything, I'm only going to push so far until I don't anymore. And that's, like you just pointed out, I think one of the things that where positive people get lonely is we also get stubborn around like, no, we got this. I can do this. I don't need anything. And then other people are just like, oh, well, I'm not going to call Aaron every time I ask him if he wants to go out to the party. He always says no, or he can't, or he's got something to do. So I get forgotten, in those different components. What are your thoughts on that?
This is awesome. 2 things. Number 1, if you offer any of my children anything, they're going to take it if it has any value. My father once said, when he'd say, Aaron, do you need $10? Or I was in the Army and, I was flying. I wanted to fly home from Germany after the war. And, before I wouldn't take any help, I'm own self as I was known growing up. I learned something. My dad said to me, where 2 fools met, the one that offered and the one that refused. So when you offer and somebody refuses, there are 2 fools. You could have had something together and work. So my kids have learned that. And I found out they're really good at spending my money and my wife's money, not so much theirs, but if I offer them something, they'll take it. Right. And I think that's the key part, is that when somebody offers you something that's value and it's from their heart, that's a good thing. It's kind of like this. If you would, let's do a little role play. If you got a second, say something like, Aaron, I really liked your book. I'm really glad you wrote it. And then we'll do this 2 times. And I think it'll come clear with the next.
There you go. All right. Well, hey, Aaron, MindCraft is a fantastic book. I appreciate you writing it.
It's not a big deal. It's something.
Oh, God. Yeah, here we go.
Oh, good. It's fine. It's
the inability to accept a compliment.
Yep. Now the next one. Do it again. I'm ready.
Aaron, I really appreciate that you wrote MindCraft. It's a really good book.
Hey, thanks for noticing that. That makes me feel good. And for you to take the time to let me know, I really appreciate that compliment.
Yeah. Oh, man.
At no time did I boast. No time did I say I was the most amazing person ever. Matter of fact, I told you you're cool for letting me know that, and you're more apt to give praise and compliments.
I'm going to share this. I was in college and never taught how to accept a compliment, and went into a professor's office, and she said, "Wow, you did a really nice job on that presentation." She then let me take the air for about 2 or 3 minutes and me talk about how I could have been better, which was like, I think the kids now call it a humble brag. And she paused, she turned her chair, looked up at me in her office and said, "Next time, just say thank you." And it struck me like lightning, because I think that's a Midwestern thing to hear a compliment and either move into self-deprecation of like, no, I'm not that great, I'm not that, or self-promotion of, well, I really appreciate that because boy, did I work hard on that. I was up for like 40 hours putting that presentation together. And even if it's someone you love and you want to confide in, you make it harder to get a compliment in the future if you put up self-deprecation or self-appreciation. That was a really good point, Aaron.
Thank you for the kind words. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Now, normally, if you compliment you on your looks, you're like, you can't help it, born this way. But I'm not sure where that falls for this one, but it's always a solid.
Although I do color my hair gray so people think I stress. I think that's pretty important.
It's distinguished.
It looks like you're coloring yours too a little bit, so you're distinguished.
Now you sound like my mom. All right, so I'm going to move on to the third chapter, which is one of my favorites before we close out here, which is Beshert. Talk to us, the whole book, Aaron Friends is somebody who, like, I've been with him a long time. The two of us can be in rooms together and we kind of do the 1,000-mile smile when we're talking, because like, I know what he's going to say. He knows what I'm going to say. We both know where we're going to come from perspectives. But there were some surprises in the book that I didn't know were coming. And this was one of them. So talk to us about this idea of Beshert.
So I work at a Catholic university sponsored by the Congregation of Sisters of St. Agnes. They're amazing. I have some friends of Dr. Dick from Richard. He's an amazing guy. He once asked me about my journey with the Lord during a presentation at a halftime of a basketball game. Bottom line is, I was born Roman Catholic, and I really struggled with being Catholic. I struggled with this whole idea that that church every day, all you got to do is say you're sorry for your sin and it's all good. Really, a big boat and things lined up and, a rib made a woman. So as I started to learn, I learned from a couple people to not let religion get in the way with my relationship with the Lord, right? So I'm not really good at like God talk and Jesus talk and stuff like that. But what I did learn, and Harlan really helped me to get to that point, and now that I'm older, it's amazing for me. As I got older, I have so much more capacity for belief and faith than I have ever had. And maybe it's because I'm getting to an end part, or maybe it's because I see the amazing things and the children and my kids, my wife, my family. It's just awestruck. Well, anyways, so going into this faith journey, I'm now at a place where I also learned that how you express, Catholic is Catholic, but the charisms between like archdiocese and different orders of women and men, and the women of Congregation of St. Agnes are absolutely amazing. They're all about dignity. Our whole goal here is to make people really good at what they do, but it's more about making people best for the world. Like I always say, anybody is okay to be at Marian University unless you're a jerk. I use a different thing that has a blank and then hole after it, but it's there. So putting that all together, I'm speaking with Harlan, and Harlan is, and you'll read The Prisoner. It's a beginning story. Matter of fact, I'm going to see him on Wednesday. I finally figured out how to navigate the new sign-in system. By the way, there's going to be something coming out that I really think that Harlan's. I'm gonna start talking more and more, and hopefully get some things so that you can start to hear Harlan's voice outside of prison. So just heads up on that one. There's some more stuff coming. But we're talking one time. And he said, Aaron, this is Beshert. Now, Harlan had a similar journey that I did with faith, but he's Jewish. So now that he's been in prison, he's really found his faith. And he said, it's Beshert that we're meeting. I'm like, well, what's that mean? And he said, well, Beshert has it's a Yiddish word and has two different meanings. Number one, the first one that most people think about is that it's
that is the most dad thing that's ever happened on my podcast, by the way.
What's that?
Your alarm's going off. But anyways, keep going.
It's
But
my
sure.
daughter is a caller. But anyway, so sorry about that. So he said, number one, it's that you find your soulmate. Like it was Bashert that I met my wife, Kelly, that we were at the same place at the same time. It's about your soulmate. He goes, but the other one is that idea of that when fate meets faith. Like he said, if I wouldn't have came to prison, if I wouldn't have done the right program, if you wouldn't have got your CDL to drive bus, if you didn't bring those kids on that day to this program, if you wouldn't have came back and asked these questions, if you didn't have an open mind, if I didn't allow you to be on my visitors list, we wouldn't be here. It's that whole idea of, I don't believe our gods manipulate our lives, but we're here. We're here. And there's always good. Now, sometimes you're the only good. And as I did more research on Bashert, that was a word that's used by a lot of Holocaust survivors. Because in the most, like, you talk about not being able to understand what people, I have no idea, but what it'd be like to be there. But they believe that this is where they're at. And what they need to do is lean into faith, lean into their beliefs, lean into the people, lean into their social groups, lean into what it is. We're here. How can we make it work? And to me, that's that mindset of acceptance of where you're at. Be it like if you're diagnosed with cancer, or if you're don't get a job, or if you're doing something really well and something good happens, or, like we have a lot of people that we know that lose, that have miscarriages, or there's people who try to apply to get a job and it doesn't work, or all these things. But we're here, like me and you, we're here. No matter what we do, we're here. So how can we make right now better? And how can we continue to grow? And for me, that was revolutionary because I so much like to know why things work. I love science. Okay. But what I sure love is then when we can't figure it out, but yet it's real and it makes you go. And so that's the last challenge that I have for people about, that activating events belief. Believe you're supposed to be here. Not good, bad, or indifferent. And I don't believe that BS that our God gives us only as much as we can handle. I don't prescribe to that, right? Nor do I think there's a reason for everything. Like, I don't think God kills young people. I don't think that there's all these things for whatever. But I do believe we're here. And I do believe that we have choice and free will to lean into our faith to try to make today better. And that's a whole different Aaron Sadoff than I was 3-4 years ago. And Harlan, he's in prison. He did something wrong, but he's in there 25 years. Nobody got hurt. They're able to prove that they didn't want to hurt anybody, and it was a property crime. He's got 12 more years because of truth and sentencing. But yet, he's a beacon of light in there trying to do everything he can, and as a coach and as a person. So he has given me a lot of strength, if you will, but that whole idea has really helped me have a lot more understanding that what we have right now is extremely fragile and extremely short-lived. But if we can lean into it and we can believe that there's something good, and sometimes only good in that whole thing is that there's that 8 inches between your ears and you, but yet you're still there. Because as Harlan would say, God doesn't make bad people. They just do bad things sometimes. So if you can lean into that, that's that whole idea of Bashert, is where faith meets faith, and now you're here. So don't waste it. Figure it out and get through, and try to make things better, or at least keep going. Because as I've learned with any decision, there's one of two things. Either there's a horse on the ground laying on your leg and not breathing, you should probably get off. Or you're in a boat and you're trying to look for land. You got to decide, do I keep going forward because it could be there the next minute, or you turn away knowing that 5 more minutes you would have seen it. And for me, that's kind of the whole idea of Bashert is lean into it and figure out what you can do now and what's important. And know you're not alone.
I think, and I don't think, what I really appreciate this is, Bashert's about destiny. And I've been saying this a lot lately, especially on stage, that like you're looking at TED 1.0. And I don't know if I get a 2.0, but I find, Aaron, through like this with some people, they live like there's a 2.0 and a 3.0. Like they'll defer or delay hard decisions. They'll defer or delay the inevitable. They will procrastinate intentionally, hoping something changes or it goes away. And sometimes for some people that works, but that has never worked for me. I have the opposite problem, which is because I am living TED 1.0. When I run into a guy like Harlan, who is your friend who's incarcerated, for me, that fuels me to pay more attention to the moment. And going back to the ICU and Bashert, I had someone call me about 2 years ago, and he said, I made this commitment to myself that if I thought of somebody more than twice in a week, I was going to call them. And I was like, I will. It really struck me because I said, well, what's up? He goes, nothing. You've been in my thoughts twice. I just wanted to talk.
It's amazing.
And to me, yeah, but like that's Bashert, right? That's like do something. There's an intentionality to all of this, and you should live with it. And I see you, and here are the ABCs, and that's the fun part about your book, MindCraft, is because now that you've heard his voice, friends, you got to read the book because his voice carries through the whole text. His word choices, it bleeds Aaron. And if you listen to it, you get to hear him because I got to listen to you too, which is the funniest thing in the world. I know what my friends who listen to my podcast think because it's like, wow, he's literally on this bike ride with me, and it's very weird. But going back to this, it's our destiny, and we get to determine not necessarily what happens to us every day. And here's your softball, but our response. Mm-hmm. So closing out, Aaron, before I ask you my final questions, like what is your final words of wisdom? After 5 decades of learning and growing and being the person you are, because if I need to plug in, I just call you, and you start out with inquiry, and then we play tennis. How are your kids? How are my kids? How's Kelly? How's Megan? However that is, we do this rapid catch up, and then it's like, all right, what else is going on? How can I help you? I wish everybody had a friend like you, but. With Destiny and Bashert and all these different pieces, what's your final like thought or wisdom on staying positive and being in the moment right now?
So one of the last stories, Jim McCartney, who was my principal at Manitowoc, it was my second year teaching, and I was I was on the leadership team developing advanced psychology, just really doing it, knocking out the park. I was really good at what I was doing, and if you didn't believe me, just ask me. I would have told you, right?
Right.
So my daughter Paige was going to be born in September. Sheboygan North, whatever or middle schools tied to him, or junior high. I got a job offer there, 5 blocks from my house, 3 to 5 blocks, whatever. So I go to Mr. McCartney, high school principal, hired me, and I go in and I sit by him, and I hadn't told him I interviewed, but I was going to tell him I was going to take this job. So I go and start talking about how important I am, how I did all these things, how I don't want to leave him in a lurch, how I feel bad because I'd be leaving, blah, blah, blah. And he let me go and go. And then when it was all done, he just sat there. And then he broke the silence and he said, Aaron, you're not that important.
Right.
He says, I'm not either. He said, this place has been here long before you got here. Before me, it'll be here long after. My piece of advice is to stop taking yourself so like putting so much stress, like but the key thing is that you still have a responsibility to lead. You still have a responsibility to take care of those decisions that you made to have children, or to start a job, or to take a salary to provide a service. But realize, like I see, probably one of the best things I can say about like where my mindset is I see my job here as president of Marian University as a jersey. If I do it well enough, they might have a ceremony for me and blah, blah, blah. But the reality of it is my goal is to take this jersey and give it to somebody else, and then to somebody else. And I kind of feel in life, I'm very similar that way, that, my importance isn't in how important I think I am. My importance is about the friends, the life, the opportunities, the ability to impact people, to support people, the ability to help others make a difference. That's where my importance is. So my advice to everybody is lighten up, Francis. Okay. Everybody, mortality will get us all. But in the meantime, just kick some ass, have some fun, and just make a difference and love people. And then you'll be fine.
Yeah. Our presence is temporary. Our decisions are permanent. I said that the other day to a group of elected officials, because our decisions influence others who then go on to influence other people. And like you said, it is a gift. It is a honor to be in a formal leadership position. And if you show up and you have to show off, find the door.
Yep.
So, all right, Sadoff, rapid questions. Number one, 180 song. You're walking down the hallway, the song comes on, completely changes the direction of your day. If you're having a bad moment, you put the song on, you're light as air.
All right.
What song changes your direction?
One I think of right now, I can't say because of the words "nice tea," but the one I can think of that really, I don't know what it is, but boy, I absolutely love Motley Crue and "Kickstart My Heart." Or then when somebody I'm angry with, like if I get in a situation and it's like whatever, and I hear "Girl, Don't Go Away, Mad, Just Go Away," that's like, yeah, just let it go. Let it go. Frozen it, as we say in our house. So those are some of the things that get me right back on track. And then a lot of Ice-T rap songs, but we'll go into that a different time.
That's fantastic. I love it. Aaron, thank you so much for joining me. Friends, you need to get the book MindCraft by Aaron Sadoff. It's available on Amazon. You can get it on audio. And again, I See You, Bashert, Get To, Judge Good, Better Together. It's a phenomenal text, and it's just a joy to read. It's also a book, what I find, and Aaron, you can comment on this too if you'd like. You can read a chapter and walk away for 2 weeks because it's written by a teacher. So it's a lesson in and of itself, easily applicable, and then you can move forward.
And it's purposely written at 8th grade level. Not to say that people can't read intellectual stuff, but I'll tell you, it's written purposely to be able to digest and have fun, because purpose is so important. This book right here, you're not going to learn new things. What I learned as an author is I'm a chef. You read this, you read Sean Aker, you read Ted Neitzke, you read Joe Sanfilippo, you read Malcolm Glad. A lot of them can tell you the same thing. It's just that, do you like that type of volume? And like you, and I appreciate one of the kindest things you said today is about how if you read this, you're going to hear my voice and my words. That's something that floors me. So enjoy. And then, write your own chapters. And then there's other MindCrafts out there, and in time we'll continue to grow them. But you can do things right now. It's that belief. You don't have to go 21 days to change it. And I don't believe in fake it till you make it. I believe in do it till you believe it.
And Aaron, if we want to learn more about you or get more information from you, have you come speak, have you come teach, how do we do that?
AaronSadoff.com. You go on there, email me, sadoffa@gmail. I'm not really good at the social, as the kids would say. I'm going to start getting better at that. I just realized I had an Instagram account about a couple hours ago. My assistant helped me see that. So I'm hopefully going to get better and get a podcast going like my friend Ted. So in time, there'll be more. But right now, AaronSadoff.com, sadoffa@gmail.com, and go from there. You can always call me too. Google me. You'll find my address, and we'll be good. Or my phone number. We're fine.
All right, friend. Hey, thank you so much for joining me on the Smart Thinking Podcast. As always, I'll probably talk to you in the next 2 days. But for everybody listening, this is a genuine example of what you get if you spend a little bit of time with my friend Aaron. So, Aaron, I appreciate you having the courage to write the book. I love your leadership. Your mindset is my favorite. And again, I hope, friends, that you get to see him in person someday.
Hey, let's end it how we started. Pew, 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 pew. Get after it, guys. Today is the first day of the rest of our lives. Thank you, Theodore.
So let's do some smart thinking. Describe your takeaways from today's podcast that you can apply immediately in your own life and leadership. List people in your life who bring you energy and joy the way that Aaron does for me. And finally, describe how you can use MindCraft to support yourself on your daily journey as a leader. That's it. That's the Smart Thinking Podcast. Hey, as always, thank you for listening. And please make sure to share this episode with others. Buy Aaron's book. Support the idea that you yourself have many leadership tips and quips within you. And maybe take his inspiration to start to write them down so that we can all learn and grow from you. Also, thank you to the Wellpennies for the great music, as well as Golden Bear Studios for allowing us to use their music each week to bring joy and hope and enthusiasm and optimism to end every single podcast. Don't forget you can now follow us daily on TikTok and the Smart Thinking Facebook page by looking for CISA6 Smart Thinking on TikTok and Smart Thinking Podcast on Facebook. I've been having a lot of fun the last 2 weeks, 6 days a week, putting up different mindfulness activities for you, reflections for you, and just having fun as I'm traveling around working with and supporting others by taking a moment in my day to think about you. So please make sure to follow us on those and make sure to like us. That's the call to action I've been told to make sure to put at the end of every podcast. All right, let's close out here. One of the things that really strikes me every time I talk to authors or different people is just the passion that they have for sharing what they have done over the course of their life or what they have discovered in their research. And one of the things that Aaron had said is that positivity is now his habit. This week, and as we close out, I really want you to stop and think about, what are your habits? Is positivity a habit of yours? I know it is mine. I mean, obnoxious optimism is something I take great pride in having developed like a muscle over the course of my life. Always looking for and finding the opportunities for improvement in everything that we face and trying to keep a positive mindset about even the people around me who might be challenging me. What's your mindset? What's your habits? I think that's a really, really cool call to action, just like following me on TikTok. And I think that's something that you should spend some time on this week. Because as Aaron quoted his dad, if an opportunity presents itself and you don't act on it, it goes away. And we can always contribute and we always have a choice. That's some sweet wisdom that Aaron laid down for us. And if you read his book, MindCraft, you'll find throughout it different stories and different ways in which that he was challenged and came through the storms that he faced, just like a buffalo, which is probably one of the reasons why I have always enjoyed being around Aaron. So this week, take some time to read, reflect, learn and grow, and find different ways to go into the storms that you are facing. Because if you don't, they're going to catch you. And no matter what happens, you have the opportunity this week to build new habits. And one of those habits can be, just very simply, always being positive.
I can't be found, and I feel the weight of it all over town. And I'm so far away, but I get a little closer every day. You're my star, you're my shaker, you're my ground, my aviator. And I say, it's alright, I'm okay, and I got nothing in my way. You're my reason for the song, and now I feel like I belong. Take a breath, little light, burn it up with me tonight. Wide awake here with you, 'cause nobody loves me like you do. And I feel so small when they never even notice me at all. Life, it knocks me down, but it doesn't seem as hard this time around. 'Cause you're my star, you're my shaker, you're my ground, my aviator. And I say, it's alright, I'm okay, and I got nothing in my way. You're my reason for the song, and now I feel like I belong. Take a breath, little light, burn it up with me tonight. Wide awake I paid my dues more than they ever did. And I'll try even more, till there's something here that wasn't here before. You're my star, you're my shaker, you're my crown, my aviator. And I say, it's alright, I'm okay, and I got nothing in my way. You're my reason for the song, and now I feel like I belong. Take a breath, little light, burn it up with me tonight. Wide awake here with you, 'cause nobody loves me like you. Nobody loves me like you. Nobody loves me like you do.
Hey, thanks a lot, Ted. And I just learned this skill. Listen to this. Pew, 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 pew. That's a sound effect.